this comes down to whether you believe being a part of a stacked team at UConn or South Carolina and winning a national championship, is that more impressive than sticking with your little home school, not surrounded by great talent, and carrying them all the way to the brink of championships back-to-back years? What's more impressive? Doing more with less or doing the best you can with the best there is?
Caitlin Clark is the greatest women's basketball player of all time. Jason Whitlock goes off on ESPN for hating on Caitlin Clark. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
ESPN figured out a way to come up with an argument that Caitlin Clark isn't one of the 5 greatest women's college basketball players of all time.
It's BS.
And it's because she didn't win a title, as ESPN analysts talk themselves out of Caitlin Clark being one of the 5 greatest women's basketball players.
Yeah, it's obvious that they're hating on Caitlin Clark. They've been hating on Caitlin Clark since her rookie season. Even in Iowa, they were talking junk about her. They always got to include Angel Reese with every women's conversation with basketball or WNBA. Don't forget about Angel Reese. Shout out to Angel Reese. She's great on social media, but she's terrible on the court. She can't play basketball at a high level. Well, at least not on Caitlin Clark's level. So it's obvious that Caitlin is one of the greatest or the greatest women's basketball player of all time. She's the GOAT.
All right.
Be real,
Steve.
Keep it real, bro.
Caitlin Clark took Iowa to back-to-back national championship games.
I mean, she didn't win, though. She didn't win.
Kate Martin.
It don't matter.
Yeah, but Breanna Stewart, who's on this list, played at UConn with a bunch of other pros, a bunch of other WNBA players. Is this comes down to whether you believe being a part of a stacked team at UConn or South Carolina and winning a national championship, is that more impressive than sticking with your little home school, not surrounded by great talent, and carrying them all the way to the brink of championships back-to-back years? What's more impressive? Doing more with less or doing the best you can with the best there is?
Of course, like I said, people are always going to nitpick about Caitlin Clark, and they're trying their best to discredit what she did with the WNBA, basically saving the WNBA. Still got a lot of more work to do, but just because she didn't win a national championship with Iowa, she's not like the GOAT as far as women's players. So again, just more BS, more hating on Caitlin Clark just because she single-handedly saved the WNBA, and she is the greatest player in WNBA history.
I mean, Jason, I would argue, and me being the women's college basketball historian that I am,
real talk,
that young lady there in Iowa City did more with less than anybody. And people say, well, she's like Pistol Pete Maravich. Maravich never went to the Final Four or the final game. And look, in my view, because of where I grew up, I am biased and how old I am. You will never tell me there was a better women's basketball player than the great Cheryl Miller. Okay, to the day I will that hill. It is Cheryl Miller.
She was cool.
But Cheryl Miller had a loaded USC team. She had the McGee sisters and I believe Cynthia Cooper.
Shout out to Cheryl Miller. I'm not trying to discredit people in the WNBA or women basketball players, but Caitlin Clark is the best WNBA player, the best women's basketball player of all time. What she done with the sport, what she did with Iowa, what she's doing with Indiana, these small market teams, she's taking them to the next level. She's bringing more eyes and ears to women's sports. Women talk about they want to be included. They want more viewership. Well, you got the GOAT Caitlin Clark there. People want to foul her, try to gouge her eyes out. The Carrington chick or whatever her name is and the Carter chick. There's a lot of people that are still hating on Caitlin Clark. And it looks like mainstream media, they're throwing shots at Caitlin Clark.
That's major league talent.
They're hating, man. I don't
okay?
like it.
Every other girl or, lady that was listed because they won, they probably had at least 2 or 3 All-Americans or players that probably had long WNBA careers if it was afforded to them.
Preach.
I have a question for you, Jason. Do you believe Larry Bird is an all-time great college player?
Yes.
I didn't really check for him like that.
Okay, well, he didn't win it, though.
Question.
Right, but he didn't win it. Can you name me a single player that he – maybe you can't because you're an Indiana guy. But think about
– who cares about Larry Bird? Caitlin Clark is the best player in NBA history and WNBA history. I don't even care no more.
About this and what's unfair, and I am a
Hating on
Magic
Caitlin,
Johnson
man.
Laker
I like
homer,
that,
no
man.
doubt. But when they say, well, and Magic beat them in the Final Four in '79.
So,
Right.
don't matter.
Okay. Michigan
Still not
State was a
Caitlin.
Big Ten team.
don't
He
matter.
also had two teammates that were NBA first-round draft choices in Greg Kelser and Jay Vincent. Okay.
Respect to those
Um,
legends.
Larry Bird had a bunch of accountants, doctors, and lawyers who probably never dribbled a basketball for $1 in their life after their eligibility ran out in Terre Haute, Indiana. Do we not have some nuance to that? Jeez.
Again, I'm going to be serious. I know I'm trolling right now, but again, who cares if Caitlin Clark didn't win a national championship? What she did for women's sports so far, just a few years in, playing collegiately in her first season with the WNBA, just what she did in her first season, her rookie season, making people like myself that don't really care about the WNBA watch basketball like that, and still for ESPN to kind of, put her on the back burner in a sense. Yeah, they try to acknowledge her, but when you got people like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp having debates with Monica McNutt and other women at ESPN, they try to make it a black and white thing. They're trying their best to, throw mud on Caitlin Clark's name, and I'm not here for it. I'm going to make sure I stand up and defend Caitlin Clark.
I think it was Carl Reed or Carl Nix.
Protect Caitlin
Yeah.
Clark at all
Carl Nix, he was
costs.
a guard. He was a guard.
Protect her.
And did they Alex
know what I'm talking about.
Gilbert, Bobby Heaton, I remember the Brad Miley, I remember
I'm yapping
Steve
right now.
Reed. But I gotta search the research bank. I got a little assist here off of the internet. But yeah, I remember Carl Nix for sure.
Yeah.
He was their second leading scorer and was a pretty good guard. Maybe he had a cup of coffee in the NBA. But you're right. Larry Bird did not, compared to what Magic was playing with, it was not even close. But here's something I find interesting in all of this, Steve, is that take the young black woman that was making the argument. I would tend to bet she would make the argument that when it comes to academic performance and why we should let certain people in universities, despite the fact their SAT scores may not be this or that, is they'll say, well, the kind of poverty they had to overcome, they had to do less, or they had to do more with less. And so they can see all the extenuating circumstances around someone, and it elevates their greatness. Like, okay, yeah, maybe they didn't have a 1450 SAT score, but they came from poverty, they went to a poor school, and so blah, blah, blah. And how that mindset and logic doesn't apply to, hey, she played at Iowa, it's not a powerhouse program. Kate Martin's in the WNBA, but she's not going to be some kind of NBA star or whatever. I just don't understand how you can see someone doing more with less.
Yeah, again, they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want you to point out, specifics with Iowa. It's really a non-existent team. No one really cared about Iowa before Caitlin Clark. Now she's a hero. All the young girls out there, they want to be Caitlin Clark. So they got her jerseys, the Indiana Fever jerseys. Like, she's a role model for all the girls out there. So again, who cares if she didn't win a national championship at Iowa? She's definitely a top 5 greatest women basketball player of all times. And in my opinion, she's going to go down, if not currently, go down as probably the best basketball women's player ever, just because of the impact that she has, the views that she's getting. She's going to save the WNBA. So yeah, if you want to throw mud on her name just because she didn't win a national championship, go ahead, be a hater. But just look at what she's doing in the WNBA. And it's just going to add to her overall legacy. Caitlin Clark is the greatest women's basketball player of all time.